Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am so happy you're watching again, and if you like this video, please subscribe to my channel. This week I've decided to make a video about my eczema healing journey. A couple of you have requested that I make a video about it, and before we start I want to say I'm still in the middle of the process of healing, so I figured I would make a video about it because watching these type of videos really helped me through my eczema journey. This is probably gonna be a bit of a long video because I have so much to tell about this topic, about my journey, but also about all the research I've done and all the therapies I've done and just everything I've come to find out about how to go about this healing process. So if after this video you feel like you still want more, please let me know in the comments down below and I'll make some more videos about it. So with that being said, let's start the video, and I hope you enjoy watching this, and if you're in the middle of a healing process, let this be a sign of strength for you, and I wish you all the best and all the strength and love in the world. So eczema is a skin condition that causes the skin to be irritated, red, itchy, and sometimes flaky. It's very common in children, and a lot of people grow over having eczema, but a lot of us are still suffering, unfortunately. In contrary to a popular belief amongst kids, speaking from a little childhood trauma here, eczema is not contagious. You cannot catch it by shaking hands with someone who has eczema or rubbing skins with someone who has eczema. It is a genetic condition that is passed down generations, but even though it's a genetic condition, it can have all kinds of different causes and it can look all kinds of different ways. Some people are suffering from more of the really itchy eczema. For some people it's really burning, some people are really flaky. Even though a lot of people I've met don't really think about eczema as a severe condition, it can be really tough to deal with. Not only can it make you feel self-conscious about showing your skin, but the worst part is, for me at least, the itch, the non-stop itch. Like, just imagine just scratching your skin with your nails really hard until it bleeds hurts, right? For most people. Well, if you're suffering from eczema, it's like a good feeling to like hurt yourself while scratching because it stops the itch finally. It can make you lose sleep because you're so itchy at night and your skin is so broken from scratching and the rashes that you just ooze fluid. I know it sounds disgusting and it feels disgusting. You can ooze fluid, which make your clothes stick, and it makes you shaky and cold and it hurts. Gosh, it goes deep. So I've already covered genetics, but in traditional Chinese medicine, which I've been studying for a while now, it's believed that physical illnesses and mental illnesses are never separated. It's always hand in hand. So if you have a mental condition, there's bound to be a physical something going on with your body as well, and vice versa. So if you have a physical condition, like eczema in this case, it's probably also rooted in a mental cause. This way you get a really whole package of healing, and I really like this approach because there's no stone left unturned. So I have 3 favorite books that really helped me with my research of getting to the root of the problem of eczema. There's this book called The 5 Elements. It's about 5 elements of Chinese medicine. It's really interesting. It delves really deep into the 5 elements of Chinese medicine, and it really shows a great connection of how your personality deals with certain elements and what kind of diseases can come from imbalance of those elements and what you can do to restore that balance. If I can find them, I'm gonna list the English versions of these books. These are all in Dutch because it's my native language, it's easier to read. And then the second one that I really love is You Can Heal Your Life. It's a really great book about that mental and physical connection of disease. Again, if you're struggling with anything, really, this book really can help like connect the pieces of what's going on and how you can be the active healer in your life. And then the last one, I'm not sure if this comes in English. I'll try my best to find out, but I'll link all the books down below anyway. This is the complete handbook for Reiki. This has been my Bible, basically. This is just really, really great. It tells you everything you need to know about Reiki and all the different types of treatments and where it comes from, the history, etc. But also, there's this whole section of every kind of disease you can think of with the mental cause of it behind the disease. And so, for instance, I will read the eczema one. A little side note, it can be quite harsh and some people might be offended by it, but even though it's like not in the least sugar-coated, it's 99% of the time true. Like, I haven't had a client yet that couldn't relate to what was in the description of the diseases. So for eczema, it says, bear with me here, do you think you're so worthless? Is it necessary to judge yourself and keep yourself small to be able to say, no, that's not for me? Sacrifice and denying love and joy isn't self-love. It's the opposite of that. The first time I read that, I got kind of angry almost, but that was interesting to me as well because I was far enough in my therapy study process that I could detect that anger as, something's probably connecting here that I don't want to face yet. I started to delve deeper into that sense of worthlessness, so to say. And for me, that really struck a chord where I had this whole world of owning up to certain feelings and situations in order for me to face what I was doing to myself, basically. For me, it just opened up my eyes and it made me realize I needed to change my self-worth. I thought I was already doing really well on the self-love part, but when the self-worth came around, I suddenly was like, oh, this is a chapter we haven't had yet. I'll dive back into that a little later. I just wanted to round up the question about the cause of eczema. Eczema is connected to the element metal. Metal is connected to the lungs and your gut. A lot of people that have eczema also have asthma and hay fever, and other diseases that usually go hand in hand with the metal element are autoimmune disorders and OCD, which is also very interesting because I also suffered from OCD for a long time. I'm not going to dive into the elements in depth in this video. If you're interested in that, I can always do a separate video on that. Moving on to my story, my eczema started around 6 or 7 years old. I have a very vivid first memory of eczema of me sitting in a classroom when I was like 6 years old, just scratching my hands and just worrying about how it was spreading to more spaces on my hands, and I just hated it so much and it hurt so much and it itched so bad. So that's a very vivid memory I still have from when I was a kid. So for me, it started in the creases of my elbows and it spread to my wrists and then eventually to my hands and my fingers and everything got covered. Sometimes when I was stressed, it would get into my neck and on my eyelids and below my lip as well. My sister also had very bad eczema, and my parents really tried to keep me off the heavy medicine for as long as they could, but they also didn't know that much on what else to do. Bless their hearts, I'm not blaming them at all because it is very difficult to navigate with the means they had back then. But in Western medicine, they usually look to solve the symptom rather than solve the cause. I'm not saying every doctor does that. I don't mean any disrespect at all. I'm just saying my experience has been that the symptom of the eczema, like the itch and the rash, was the thing that was looked to be resolved rather than looking deeper and trying to find, okay, what is causing this? So I usually got a lot of creams, a lot of ointments, and eventually it got so bad that I couldn't focus anymore. So they decided to get me on a light steroid. Now in the beginning, I truly loved this. I was over the moon that my rash was disappearing and I didn't feel itchy anymore. And I just felt so excited. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm cured. I finally don't have eczema anymore and all was well. All did go well off and on for a while. I wasn't on the steroids permanently as far as I can remember. I'm not sure exactly how much of the steroid cream I used and for how long because it's been such an off and on thing since I was like 6. that my mom and I both don't really remember. What I do remember, however, is that when I was 15, my life was pretty intense. My aunt and my mom got into a fight where they didn't see each other anymore, and I didn't see my cousins anymore that I grew up with, which was really stressful for me. My parents got divorced, my grandpa died, and I moved houses about like 9 times in a year, all the while in my graduating high school year. So needless to say, it was quite the adventure, and my body was just like, it's enough, it's enough, it's enough. So I started to get all these little spots of eczema on my whole entire body. Not just my arms anymore, on my arms, on my stomach, on my back, on my butt, on my legs, everywhere but my neck and face. And that's when my mom took me to the dermatologist and they got me on pretty heavy steroids. Before that, I was off of the steroids for a long time, for a couple years at least. And that's pretty much where it all went downhill for me. I did get rid of most of the heavy spotting of eczema on my skin with the heavy steroids, but I was left with some kind of vitiligo or something that made my pigment disappear. So I had these giant white spots on my arms and my hands, I'll show you a picture right here, for quite some time. And I continued to be on this topical steroid for a couple years off and on, because ever since that outbreak I kept using that steroid whenever I had a little flare-up until about a year ago, where I noticed that I had to put the steroid cream on every single day in order to keep it at bay a little bit, but it felt like it wasn't working anymore and it was just getting worse and worse. So I tried to quit. I tried to quit 2 years ago, I think, but I couldn't take it. I wasn't strong enough mentally. I had just gotten out of my divorce and I was just trying to build a new life in Holland, and I just wasn't mentally strong enough to take on the itch and the burning and how bad it got, because I broke down crying and my boyfriend said, if you can't deal with it, just don't do it now. But I kept playing with the idea of quitting the steroids because I just didn't want to be dependent on the steroids, and I think somewhere in the back of my mind I knew how bad they were for me, but I just didn't want to face it. But when I started my healing journey to become a holistic therapist, I felt like I couldn't tell people how to deal with their health if I was continuously abusing my health with steroids. For me, that's how it felt. So I decided to work up to the moment. I went to Greece earlier this year to a silent retreat to heal sexual trauma. In that same trip, I gained so much power back that I decided I was strong enough to quit the steroids. So I went cold turkey, and that was something. My Reiki master, bless her heart, she's the sweetest. Honestly, she has helped me so much. She even spent the nights with me to give me Reiki and make sure I could sleep. And once I was back home, it was time for me to really tackle the problem and find out how I was gonna beat this thing. I knew it was gonna be intense. For the people that don't know, if you quit topical steroids, you can go into something that's called topical steroid withdrawal. You can find a lot about it online. A lot of doctors are denying its existence, but it's so clear that a lot of people are suffering from it. The steroids just do so much damage to you. The more I started to dig into how bad topical steroids are and how bad TSW can get, the more angry I got with my personal physician, because I was like, I've been asking for a refill of this medicine from my doctor for, I think, almost 15 years. Like, no joke, 15 years. And nowhere in this time did any of the physicians decide to say, maybe she has a lot of steroids in her body and maybe she needs to quit this. Because even in Western medicine, it's well known that topical steroids are not ideally used for a long period of time. If you decide to use it, it's supposed to be used for a short period of time and a very specific dose. Otherwise, it doesn't work. But no one told me that. But anyway, the first thing I tried when I decided I didn't want to do steroids anymore was just go cold turkey. And after I did some research and looked at some videos, I realized the 3 first months of natural healing are going to be the worst. So remember that if you're going through a natural healing process, the first 3 months are the worst. It feels like every day is a year long. for the first 3 months. I've never experienced longer months in my life than those first 3 months. After that, it gets better. And the second thing you need to remember is that the amount of years that you've spent on this medicine or with dealing with this disease, you can calculate that in months for it to go out of your system. So I've been dealing with this steroid cream for off and on roughly 15 years. So my journey will be 15 months long. And then the third thing I want to note is that natural healing goes back in time. Let's say you're dealing with bowel problems right now. And before those bowel problems, you had asthma. And before that asthma, you had eczema. If you're deciding to heal from those bowel problems in a natural way and you're actually healing, it's working for you, then at first you'll start to have those bowel problems. Then you'll probably get asthma again. And then you'll probably get eczema again. And then it'll go away. So a lot of people stop in the midst of natural healing because they're like, well, this isn't working, I'm just getting sicker. But it's your body tracing its steps back to the origin of the problem. For me personally, I got eczema again really bad in the palms of my hands and my fingers. Really bad. I was out of work for 2 months at least because I couldn't work with my hands. I couldn't open a jar, I couldn't do the laundry, I couldn't do the dishes, I couldn't do anything with my hands because they were so painful, so broken and itchy. So my lovely boyfriend took a lot of that responsibility onto him, which was also interesting because it further triggered my feeling of worthlessness because I literally could do nothing. And I believe that everything that happens in your life is a mirror image of what's happening inside yourself. So everything that happens can reflect what's going on within you. So me dealing with my worthlessness was mirrored in the fact that I couldn't do anything. I couldn't work, I couldn't do housework, I couldn't cook, I couldn't do anything. And I had to let my boyfriend do everything, and that made me feel even more worthless. So that was a really interesting take on that theme. And I really got to work with that feeling of finding that self-worth when there's nothing from outside that you can pin your worth on, if that makes sense. So you can't pin your worth on your work. You can't pin your worth on how much you do for other people. You can't pin your worth on what you can do or what you can be. You can just pin it on who you are inside. It did in the end help to see that the problem was to be addressed inside of me, and not being able to work just emphasized the fact that I couldn't focus on an outside thing to pin my worth on. So that's a little interesting note. But slowly but surely, after the first phase, it started to go to my wrists. And I was like, okay, well, that's interesting. And then it started to go to my elbow creases, which is where it started. So for me, that just made sense. Like, oh, see, my body's going back in time, so it's working. It was really stressful. Sometimes I felt so desperate, and there have been times where I was like, just cut these suckers off. I'm done with having hands. I don't want to deal with it anymore. But it just goes to show that the first 3 months are just really, really tough. It does get better because I want to show you how my hands are doing now. See? It's so much better. And sometimes I have little flare-ups here. See, my pigment's still gone. That happens with me. I don't know why. You can see the pigment's still gone. And sometimes I get little tiny flare-ups on the back of my hands, but I don't touch people with the back of my hands, so I can work now, and that makes me feel a lot more comfortable. So yeah, I'm still in process. I have times where my skin's completely clean and I'm so happy, and I have times where I have flare-ups again, but the worst is over. I can't tell you how much that means to me because there has been times where I thought it was never gonna end, and I thought it was never gonna go away, and now that the worst is over, I feel so grateful to know that it gets better. I'm 4 months in now, so I have a long way to go. So after I went cold turkey and it got really bad on my hands, I learned about medical medium. He's a medium that receives medical information. He's helped a lot of people around the world. He has a lot of books about healing the natural way through food, and I decided that I was gonna try his diet for people with eczema or acne. A lot of the skin problems, like I said, come from the lungs or the gut. And for me, I found out that I had a gluten intolerance and that I was basically poisoning my gut and hurting myself for a long time. So I quit eating gluten, and that also comes back in the information that Medical Medium gives you. He says not to eat gluten, no dairy, no meat, and no eggs, and then lots of fruit, lots of veggies, and half a liter to a liter of celery juice every morning on an empty stomach, unmixed, nothing added, nothing but celery juice on an empty stomach. So I stuck with that for about 3 months, and I began to see amazing results. I still don't eat eggs, I still don't eat gluten, but yeah, diet is really important in healing the skin. Also, again, with all natural healing, it can get worse first because your body is detoxing. But try that, it really can help. And then Reiki really helped for me. If you have eczema, I highly advise you to either take a Reiki course to be able to treat yourself or find someone that can treat you, because dealing with the pain and the itch, whenever I could put my hands on something, I just felt better immediately. And lastly, I want to say that if you're going to decide you're going to quit your topical steroids and go through topical steroid withdrawal, it's going to be mentally really hard. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. The mental part of it is the most difficult part of it. So I want to give you the advice to make sure you have a good support system around you, whether that be just family and friends or your loved one or a professional therapist or any other healthcare professional. It's really important to have that safety net for your mental health. The most important thing that I just want to tell you from the heart, and please trust me when I say this, the only way out is through. I know it sucks. I really do. I know how much pain you're having. I know how bad it feels. I really do. And I love you so much, and I'm so proud of you that you're already doing this and you've come so far already. Please don't give up. And I hope some of you might find some strength or inspiration from this video. And I just want to send you all my love and all my strength. And if you have any questions or if you want to have more specific videos, please let me know below. I hope this video helped some of you. I hope it was informative, and thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate all of you. And for now, I wish you the best day of your life, and I hope to see you soon. Bye.